Timarandasya Karanjana Shalakaya Chakshunmalatam Yaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bob, would you like to read the English
Yep,
for that?
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Okay. So yes, so we're continuing the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So now we're on text 17.
Text 17.
17.
In
So
a
just
sense, Sanskrit is a very big word. Sanskrit, that is a one word.
What's one word?
That Sanskrit shloka, I was looking 17. The whole is a one word, is it?
No, it's not one word, but yeah, it's all joined together, yeah.
All joined together. I was thinking, was it one word? Oh my god.
No, it's not one word. Not one word.
Why would they join together?
So, just recapping that from the last verse, that the self-realized person, what separates him from others is that has full knowledge, and the materialistic person is in ignorance. So somehow or other we have to get out of ignorance. Ignorance is our worst enemy, and in ignorance we become lusty and greedy and angry and engage in all selfish activities which cause one to take repeated birth and death. So to get out of all that cycle, we need knowledge. We need transcendental knowledge. And the last chapter was saying that transcendental knowledge comes from the spiritual master. If we submissively inquire from the spiritual master, hear from them, then we can get that knowledge. So Krishna is saying here again, recommending that we need to get enlightened with knowledge, and that will dispel all of our ignorance and all of our problems and misgivings and so forth. And the analogy is just like when the sun comes up in the morning, dispels all the darkness of the night. So just like when the sun rises, all the darkness is gone. So when we become enlightened with knowledge, transcendental knowledge, then all of our ignorance goes away, which is the cause of our suffering. So that's how we're going to get free from suffering, is by getting transcendental knowledge, hearing from the scriptures and the spiritual master. So we're continuing on that theme. Of course, everyone in the material world is very busy doing activities, and those activities, because they're all self-centered, cause one to be entangled in the cycle of birth and death. But this chapter is karma yoga, so also recommending karma, which means activities, but not just plain karma by itself, doing activities for our own benefit, but karma yoga. So, and Prabhupada's translating that action in Krishna consciousness. So normal action for ourselves is entangling us in the cycle of birth and death. But if we do it in our actions in Krishna consciousness, what kind of actions? Any kind of action. If you cook in Krishna consciousness, cooking's an action. If you make money in Krishna consciousness, if you cleaning is an action in Krishna consciousness. So any kind of activity at all, if you, like even now we're talking, but what are we talking? Are we talking about the stock exchange and making more money? Are we talking about COVID? Are we talking about the weather? Are we talking about the body? No, we're talking about things related to Krishna, how we can attain Krishna consciousness. So all of our activities, if we can make it into yoga, connect all of our activities with the Lord, then that will free us from this material world. Whereas the same activities when not relation with the Lord, just centered around ourselves, they're binding us to the material world. So we have to remember that. And we're not just trying to stop our activities, but we're trying to connect our activities to Krishna, that's all. So we don't have to give up everything. all this ordinary work is binding us, but it's not that we have to, logically we might think, oh, all these activities are binding me to the cycle of birth and death, to bad karma, then let me give it all up. But Krishna's not recommending us to give up our activities. He's just encouraging us to connect our activities to him. So that's what this chapter is about. Okay, so let's read the Sanskrit. So one line at a time. I'll say it first, and then if you please try to follow along. Tad buddhayas tad atmanas.
Tad buddhya tad atmanas.
Tan nishtas tat parayanaha.
Tannishtha tat parayana.
Gachantya purna vritim.
Gachantya apurna avadrim.
Jnana nirdhuta kalmasaha.
Yana nirduta kalmaisha.
Yeah, okay. Gulshan, the
Yep.
English translation, please.
When one's intelligent mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgiving, the complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation.
Hey, Bhakti Mala's appeared. Great.
Hey, Bhakti.
Hey, Mala.
Nice to see you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So we just read the translation for text 17 in the 5th chapter. So in here it's mentioned about being cleansed of all misgivings. And then and what's the benefit of getting cleared from all misgivings? Very good benefit mentioned here. What's the ultimate benefit mentioned here? If we get free from all misgivings,
It be path of liberation.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Proceed to
Freedom. Liberation means freedom. Freedom from what?
From death and birth. And,
from death and birth. After death, there's another birth, usually, unless we do something about it. Then there's going to be another birth, and then along with that, of course, comes old age and disease. So these are inevitable.
Yeah.
Once the body is born, these other things are concomitant facts. But getting free from these things, that's exciting. We want to be. Who wants to be on the path to get free from birth and death? Put up your hand.
Oh man, everyone.
Disease, yeah, everyone does, of course. No one wants to suffer. We all want to be happy. That's natural, because the nature of the soul is an andamaya vyasat. We're pleasure seekers. That's our nature. Our nature is to be happy and to enjoy. But in the material world, generally we get disconnected with our happy nature. Isn't it? It was said that Prabhupada made the hippies into happies.
Yes,
So they weren't happies before Krishna consciousness. After Krishna consciousness, they became happies. Actually, it's our natural right to be happies. That's where we come from, that situation in the spiritual world. We're all happy serving Krishna, but we've got disconnected from that service to Krishna, and we've become either hippies or, a gentleman in the material world with a suit and tie, but, suffering so much anxiety. So, yeah, whether it's as a hippie or a gentleman or, whatever kind of class of person, without Krishna consciousness, we're not happy. Not happy. The hippies thought if they gave up all their material activities and just smoked marijuana and had a lot of sex, they thought that would make them happy, but they didn't. It didn't make them happy. They became even more unhappy and very frustrated. So the real way to be happy is to reconnect with Krishna. And it's mentioned here that all these what's blocking us from the path of liberation is we have doubts, or it's mentioned here in misgivings. And very interesting, the word which Prabhupada translates as misgivings, kalmasa, the last word in the verse, kalmasaha, misgivings. Prabhupada's saying that these misgivings is what is blocking our path to freedom and getting out of this material world. Misgivings, you could also translate that as another word as doubts, because we have doubts. And where do doubts come from? What's the source of doubts? Yeah, Jayanti called out ignorance. So because of ignorance, we have doubts, isn't it?
Yes.
If you have full knowledge, are you going to have any doubts?
No.
Maybe, could be. I'm not sure. I really don't know. You're not going to say anything like that, are you? It's like this, like Prabhupada, because he has full knowledge, he never said maybe, could be, like that. He should be, I'm not sure. No, he never made any statements like that. He didn't have any doubts. He was in full knowledge. He was speaking the absolute truth. He was completely in the light of transcendental knowledge, no darkness. So he didn't have any doubts, any misgivings like that. But this word kalmasa, interesting, in other places the word kalmasa means sin. One definition of the word kalmasa means sin. So how is that? Sometimes it's translated as kalmasa as sin, and another time is saying misgivings. So is there a connection between sin and then misgivings and doubts? What do you think? Anyone has any ideas?
I would have to think there's a connection.
There definitely is a connection, yeah. There is an intimate connection there. Why the same word can have different translations. Because of our defying the laws of God and engaging in sinful activity, what is sin? That one time Prabhupada explained that sin are activities that we do that make our heart more dirty. That is sinful. Make our heart more dirty. And the opposite to that, what's the opposite of sin, is pious activities. Like in Sanskrit we say punya, means pious activities. And on the other side, there's kalmasa, or sinful activities. So punya, pious activities, clean the heart. Anything that you do that cleans your heart is a pious activity. Anything that makes your heart a bit cleaner. And anything that you do that makes your heart more dirtier, that's a sinful activity, kalmasa. And one of the reactions or byproducts of engaging in sinful activities is that you get more covered over with ignorance. And everything that goes with that means lust and greed and anger and envy and pride and all these other contaminating things. They're all intimately connected, all these sinful things. So as soon as we engage in sinful activities that make our heart more dirty, immediately your knowledge gets covered over. Your knowledge gets covered over and you become more ignorant and go down further and further and further. And that's explained in the end of the 3rd chapter, which we looked at that on a similar subject. But we'll look at it again because it's always good to reinforce these things. So the end of the 3rd chapter, text 39.
39.
Yeah, 39 in the 3rd chapter. Whoever gets there first, please read the English.
Thus the wise living entity, pure consciousness, become covered by the eternal enemy in the front of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire.
Yeah. So this lust is one of our sinful enemies. And what it does, it covers over our knowledge. It makes us more ignorant. It covers over our original knowledge of that I'm an eternal spirit soul and I have a loving relationship with God, with Krishna, and I belong in the spiritual world, my real home's in the spiritual world. So all this knowledge that we originally had gets covered over because of engaging in this kalmasa, sinful activities, like, lustful activities, greedy activities, angry activities. These are all sinful things. And it's not just, you're not just dealing with doing something, like the 4 regulated principles, right? No meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. Why we don't do those things? Because they're sinful activities. Now, people say, well, what's the problem? That I eat some meat, that I, have illicit sex and take intoxication, and so forth. What's the problem? It's more than just it has a bad effect on your health and all that, which is also there. But one of the worst things it does is that it makes us more ignorant. Our original spiritual knowledge, transcendental knowledge, is going to get more and more covered over by that. We're going to go more and more darkness in our life, more and more ignorance in our life. The more we eat meat and take intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling and like that, we could become, deeper in ignorance. And this is tragic because as long as we're in ignorance, we're never going to get liberated from this material world. We're always going to remain here in different forms and suffering. So always remember that on this, if we want to go on the path of liberation, we have to stay clean. We have to keep a clean slate as much as possible. Don't get in the mud, in the muck of materialistic life and indulge in kalmasa, sinful activities, and then we'll get covered over again. And even for persons that have been devotees of Krishna consciousness, if we give up these pious activities, like chanting our 16 rounds is the most pious activity, chanting Hare Krishna, and hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, taking prasadam with the devotees and all these kind of activities, which are very pious activities, they clean our heart. Every time we take prasadam, we're cleaning our heart. Every time you chant Hare Krishna, you're cleaning your heart. Every time you hear Bhagavad Gita or read it or talk it or whatever, you're cleaning your heart. So, but if we stop doing these heart cleaning activities and we go back to doing heart dirtying activities, then we're going to become ignorant again. Some people think that, it's not possible for a Hare Krishna to go back to meat eating, to go back to drinking liquor and stuff like that, illicit sex and so forth. How could you go back to that, after having full consciousness? But we see that sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. So, immediately we give up the purifying activities and we go back to, the contaminating activities. Our knowledge gets covered over again and we go back to being ignorant again. So we should have a healthy fear of this. Like Prabhupada, he had one criticism of Westerners. Do you know he was very merciful to the Western devotees, very compassionate, everything. But he had one criticism. Do you know what that was? Would you like to know what it was?
Yeah.
You're not afraid of Maya enough. You're not afraid of Maya enough. Well, it's healthy for us to be afraid of Maya, that we don't want to get into Maya again. We don't want to get sucked down by the energy again and become ignorant again. So then that will help us stick to the process and take it very seriously and very sincerely follow the process. Stick to the path. Isn't it the path? We're on the path of liberation. Did you realize that? You're on the path of liberation. You're cleaning your heart. Every day you're chanting and taking prasadam and doing service for Krishna and hearing Bhagavad Gita and so forth. You're on the path. You very, very quickly you're going to be there. Like it's saying there, proceed straight on the path. No bends, no corners. You're going to go straight back to Godhead. Like Prabhupada said, right? The magazine, back to Godhead. That in this one life, you can go directly straight back to Godhead. That should excite us. That should thrill us. When you talk about that, all the hairs on your body should stand on end. That you can go straight back to Godhead. Have we realized that? But we have misgivings, isn't it? Oh, I'm not so sure. Does back to Godhead really exist? I can't see it. I only know the earth exists, and I heard the moon exists because the astronauts went there or whatever. So we have a lot of misgivings. Is Krishna really God? Am I really a soul? I look in the mirror, it looks like I'm the body, like that. So there's a lot of doubts, a lot of ignorance there. And it's identified here where these doubts comes from our past sins. If Krishna is speaking something and we can't, or the spiritual master, and we don't accept it straight away, that cloudiness there is coming from our past sinful activities. That's what it is, because we're still getting some reactions from our past are still there, causing this cloudiness in our consciousness that we can't understand the process clearly, or we have some doubts in the process like that. We can't follow it. But the good news is, even though we've got this imagine some baggage on our shoulders of our past kalmasa, sinful activities, although that's weighing us down, a big burden, then every time we chant and, like I said, take prasadam, hear Bhagavad Gita, that baggage is being cleared off. But then, like Prabhupada said, just be careful, don't become like an elephant taking a bath. What's the phenomena of an elephant taking a bath? What does it do? Gets very nice and clean.
And then put the dirt all over again.
Yeah, as soon as it comes out of the water, it picks up some dirt, dust in its trunk and just blows it all over itself. So we just got to be careful not to do that. We're coming clean. We're coming clean very quickly. We're going to become completely clean if we keep up this process. But don't put any more dirt.
We can get the dust of Bhagavad Gita to all over us, so no one can contaminate us.
Yeah, we need to immunize ourselves with Bhagavad Gita. You know what? Even prasadam, Prabhupada said prasadam is immunizing us against material contamination. Did you know that? Did you know that every time you offer your food to God and eat that it's an immunization? It's the only immunization I'll take. I won't take any other vaccine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have COVID vaccine or any other immunization for this thing or that thing. But the only immunization I'll take is prasadam immunization. And that immunizes us from material contamination. It means like lust and greed and anger and envy and pride and all these things, ignorance. That it's so protective. So you want to keep doing that daily, this daily immunizing, and it's like an armor. Also, the word for armor in Sanskrit is called kavacha. So when we chant the holy name of the Lord and hear Bhagavad Gita, take prasadam, this is like kavacha. This is like spiritual armor. Like I know Bhakti Mala's been reading a book, Spiritual Warrior, isn't it?
Yeah.
Spiritual Warrior. So it's like that. So spiritual warrior, a warrior needs armor. Can you have a warrior without armor? No. But a spiritual warrior has spiritual armor. Doesn't have a metal breastplate and a helmet and everything like that. But we have armor. But that's the armor of the holy name and the armor of the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna will protect us. Krishna's protecting us. As long as we keep connected with him, associating with him, then we're gonna be fully protected from all kinds of materialistic bombardments. But we have to be very careful not to stray off the path and go back into kalmasa, sinful activities. Let's jump ahead. Another one that talks about that, 7th chapter, text 28, which is talking about this idea of being free from misbehavior, sinful activities.
Abhay, would misgivings and doubts also be about lack of faith as well? Is that what you're sort of saying?
Yeah. So that's what it means. And this is caused by our past engagement in sinful activities. It creates a lack of faith in us. That's why our faith is not immediately so great, because we're still got this baggage of past sinful reactions there. So yeah, misgivings means doubts, it means a lack of faith, all these kind of things like that. But as soon as we clear off all that, then our faith will just blossom and our knowledge will just blossom. So let's check out that text 28. Who wants to read? Persons
who have acted piously in previous life and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination.
So yeah, we engage in pious heart cleaning activities and avoid the sinful heart contaminating activities, and then we're going to get free from the dualities of this material world, and we're going to be very fired up, very enthusiastically, with determination, serving Krishna. Now, at this point, one may raise their hand. Oh my God, I'm not sure if I fit into this category, because I certainly haven't acted piously in this life. Before I met the devotees a few years ago, I wasn't acting piously. So I think I'm a bit disqualified from being able to engage in devotional service with determination. So that doubt might be there. That's a doubt, isn't it? That's a doubt. We might have that doubt. That I'm not very pious. I was brought up watching my father shoot cows. So definitely I'm not very pious. And, it breaks my heart if I think about my past. But so we may have doubts, how am I going to be able to take to it with determination? I'm not very pious. And a devotee raised that doubt to Prabhupada and said, how did we become Krishna conscious? It's saying here that you have to be pious. You have to have a clean heart to be Krishna conscious. It's saying in this verse. How did we become Krishna conscious? We weren't very pious, Prabhupada. He said, were we pious? Prabhupada said, no. He said, I created your piety. Wow. You hear that? Prabhupada said, I created your piety. That he's so powerful as an empowered servant of God, he has the power to make an impious or sinful person pious just by his association. Just by his association. So powerful. Just his association is enough to clean your dirty heart on the spot. Even so much dirt is there even from this life, what to speak of the past lives, but he can just blast it away. Prabhupada said one time, what did he say? He said someone was talking about bad karma or something, or sins, and Prabhupada said, don't worry, with one kick of my foot, I can kick away all of your sins and bad karma. He said like that, with one kick of my foot. So that's Prabhupada's mercy. That's the mercy of a devotee. Even though we're the dregs of Kali Yuga, sinful wretches that didn't get liberated in the past golden age and so forth, and the silver age and copper age. We're in the iron age. We're the dregs, that didn't go back to Godhead. But Prabhupada is so kind to come here and lift us up. And the good news is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's known as Patita. Patita what? Patita? Pavan. Patita means very low, very fallen. But Pavan means deliverer. He delivers all the most fallen. That's his special feature. And especially he delivers the most fallen ones. So put up your hand if you're one of the most fallen.
Yes. 2 hands.
I'm putting up 2 hands. So, but the good news is that's his mission, to get your rotten backside out of here. You're in the category that he's out to deliver. So you're in the right category. He's out to deliver, us, fallen souls of Kali Yuga. That's his mission. He's so kind And it said the nature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very interesting. See, Krishna, he is the same as Lord Chaitanya, but the mood is completely different. Krishna's mood is that I'm God and you have to do what I say. And if you don't do what I say, then I'm not going to help you out. You know, what does he say at the end of the Bhagavad Gita? Savadama prachaja mamikam sharanam bhaja. He's saying just surrender. So before you get Krishna's mercy, you have to surrender. If you don't surrender, sorry, mate, no mercy. But Lord Chaitanya's mood is, he's also Krishna, but he's in the mood of, who's Lord Chaitanya in the mood of?
Oh no, Lord Chaitanya.
Giant, he called out, Radharani! So in the mood of Radharani, very soft-hearted. Normally the ladies, at least traditionally, I don't know about now, but the ladies are very soft-hearted. Women are generally more soft-hearted than men. Men can be quite hard.
That's why the God give it a pregnancy to the woman. A man can't handle.
Oh, I mean, they're high, what do you call it? Not endurance, tolerance for pain. But their heart is generally very soft-hearted. So in the mood of Radharani, that Krishna is very soft-hearted, Lord Chaitanya. And it's said that Lord Chaitanya doesn't consider whether one is pious or sinful. Doesn't consider knowledgeable or ignorant. Doesn't consider any of these things. It's just freely distributing Krishna Prem, love for God, just freely. Lord Chaitanya is compared to a king who has become intoxicated. And in that intoxicated state, he's entered into his own treasury room and pulled out his greatest treasures and just gone out into the street. And whoever he sees, that intoxicated king just hands them these fantastic treasures to whoever happens to be there. So Lord Chaitanya is like that. He's not considering whether you're pious or impious or anything like that. He's just handing you the mercy, freely giving the mercy, isn't it? And the Krishna conscious movement should be following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, and Prabhupada definitely was, that he's just freely giving Krishna consciousness to anyone and everyone. And what are the treasures? Like this drunken king is handing out treasures. So what treasures was Lord Chaitanya handing out? And his followers down the line, like Prabhupada and hopefully us.
Do you mean like wisdom?
Mahamantra.
Wisdom, yeah, that's there. Yes. And Jayanti called out love for God. And how does that love for God become that's a bit esoteric, isn't it? But ethereal, what is love for God? It's not very tangible. But what are the tangible manifestations, you could say, of love for God that Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada and his followers are dishing out freely to everyone?
Are you talking about compassion?
Yeah, that's the kind of feeling, but what tangible activities
Harinam
is the Lord and the devotees doing that's awakening the love of God in the heart?
Kirtan.
Yeah, it wasn't a trick question. It was a very easy question. Kirtan, that just by this chanting process, that it awakens the love for God in our hearts. And along with what Bob said, the natural knowledge that we have, the natural wisdom gets awakened. And taken prasadam, that's also, these are called the fruits of love of God. These are the tangible things that you can taste that awaken the love of God. So one is kirtan, and there's prasadam, and there's these books that hearing about Krishna. These are tangible things, activities that awaken our feelings of love for Krishna. Get awakened just by doing these things. And that's been handed out freely. Did anyone ever come to you, or do you ever go to anyone and say, oh, before I give you prasadam, first of all, I have to ask you, are you pious? Before I tell you this Hare Krishna mantra, I have to ask: are you pious? Are you free from sinful activities?
No.
There's no anyone and everyone, any Tom, Dick, and Harry, just loudly chanting for the benefit of everyone. Actually, Haridas Thakur said to Lord Chaitanya. Then Lord Chaitanya asked a question, and you might ask a question. Why is Lord Chaitanya asking a question? He's God; he knows everything. But he was playing the role of a devotee, and he accepted that Haridas Thakur was a very elevated devotee in transcendental knowledge. So he asked the question that how will the non-moving living entities be delivered? What are non-moving living entities? What are they?
Trees.
Johnny called out trees. Yeah. So trees and plants and creepers and so forth. How will they be delivered? How will they be set on the path? Is it possible to set a tree on the path of liberation to deliver them? And they're very sinful living entities. That's why they're in the body of plants and trees. Why they can't move. They have less freedom than us. At least we can move, right? We've got a bit more freedom than trees. Trees don't have much freedom, so their freedom has been taken away because of past
Karma.
Karma. What kind of karma? Bad karma. Past sinful activities. If someone was given freedom and they misuse it, then the freedom will be taken away in the next life. They'll take birth in the body of a tree. So they can't hurt nobody anymore. If you're
Can you
harmful to
imagine
other
that
living entities in this life?
if I'll be like a tree and then every dog come in and piss on me and I can't do anything?
Yeah, that's definitely pretty sinful. You can't even move. Someone's peeing on you.
That's right.
And the wind and the rain and the sun.
And maybe sometime burn alive.
You're exposed, especially in Australia. Oh my God! You
And the
got
termites.
45
You'll
degrees in the
eat
summer
eating
and
alive, termite.
Simmer, and then you got the white ants eating you, and then there's a forest fire and everything like that. So it's a lot of.
What happens if you're a fruit tree? People are just throwing the stones.
Yeah. So yeah.
In every Kali Yuga, is there an incarnation that comes to spread Krishna consciousness, or is it?
Good question. In every Kali Yuga, there is an incarnation,
Yes.
and he's a golden color, and he spreads the Yuga Dharma, which is Harinam Sankirtan, which is congregational chanting of the holy name. But he's not Lord Chaitanya.
Oh, okay.
And he's not propagating the very confidential mood of the gopis, the highest love for Krishna, the love of the Brajvasis, the residents of Vrindavan. So every Kali Yuga there's an incarnation. He teaches people to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but he doesn't teach people about the gopis' love for Krishna and feelings of separation and so forth, and these highest feelings of love of God. So the highest love of God. So he doesn't teach that. So we're very fortunate because Lord Chaitanya comes only once in a day of Lord Brahma, which is, there's 1,000 yuga cycles in a day of Lord Brahma. So 1,000 Satya Yugas, Treta Yugas, Dwapara Yugas, Kali Yugas. So 1 in 1,000 Kali Yugas has Lord Chaitanya. So we are now here just after that once in 1,000 Kali Yugas where Lord Chaitanya appears. So we're very fortunate. We're so fortunate, and he's given the ultimate process and just so attractively he's showing us how we can achieve the love of God and distributing these fruits of love of God, and this pure love of the gopis, helping us to achieve that platform. And what is the mood of the gopis? It's not that we have to, we have to become women or anything like that. It's not about what we look like, a cowherd girl or anything like that. But it's the mood. And what is the mood of the gopis?
Happy.
What's that?
They're always happy.
They are always happy. But do you think they are concerned about their own happiness?
No.
No, they're not at all. There's one verse that says they've given up all desires for their own personal happiness. They've given up all desires for their bodily enjoyment. They've given up all social customs. They've given up all the Vedic injunctions, all the social duties, everything like that. They've taking risk of punishment from family members and so forth. Why did they do all those things, take all those risks and give up all their other duties? Just to make Krishna happy. That's the mood of the gopis. If you have that mood, then you have the mood of the gopis. If you get to a point where you don't care about yourself anymore, you give up trying to make yourself happy, and you don't care about anything except for one thing. I just want to please Krishna. I just want to make Krishna happy. And I told you the story before, right? Where Krishna sent out a messenger. Go and tell all my devotees in different places that I've got a headache, and the only thing that'll fix it is the dust from my feet. So I went to the devotees in Dwarka and told that he's got a headache. And they said, we can't give the dust from our feet. We're going to go to hell. Putting the dust of our dirty feet on God's head, we're going to go to hell. And they went to the devotees in Mathura. Oh, Krishna's got a headache. He wants the dust from your feet. No, we can't give that. If we do that, we'll go to hell. And then he went to Vrindavan, and then he said, Krishna's got a headache, and the only thing that's going to... And they said, oh, no, that's terrible. Krishna's got a headache. Oh, my God. What can we do? And then he said, the only thing that'll fix it is the dust from your feet. And what did they say? How much do you want?
Take it.
How much? How much?
Take it.
Take it as much as you want. If it's going to fix his headache. And then the messenger said, don't you realize you may go to hell?
I'm happy to go to hell.
Who cares?
Yes.
Let's go to hell. If my going to hell helps Krishna to be happy, let me go to hell. Let me go to hell or stay in hell. If that helps Krishna, that's the mood of the gopis. You're completely selfless. And interestingly, Prabhupada said many times, but this is one particular occasion he indicated, he said, my mood, my whole life is everything for Krishna and nothing for me. Everything for Krishna, nothing for me. And I was thinking, after reading that verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is saying they gave up this, gave up this, gave up their happiness, gave up this, they only tried to make Krishna happy. I realized he's a gopi. Prabhupada is a gopi.
Mood of gopi.
He has the mood of a gopi. In the body of a man, but who cares what the body is?
Gopi, yeah.
But he has the mood. It's the mood of sacrificing everything for the sake of Krishna's happiness, to make Krishna happy. And of course, that's a very high platform. We're not saying that, oh yes, I'm going to become a gopi now, like that.
Oh, not that easy.
So that's sahajya. It's not a cheap thing. But the process that Prabhupada is giving us is helping us to come to that platform. Some people criticize Prabhupada that he didn't give us everything. He didn't give us everything. But that's a lie. Prabhupada, everything he's given us in his books to help us achieve, because some people criticize that, and Prabhupada's books doesn't give all these intimate pastimes of Radha, Krishna, and the gopis. Some other teachers, they tell all about Radha and Krishna's dancing with the cowherd girls and all this kind of stuff. And that Prabhupada didn't write about those things. He hasn't given you everything. But that's a lie. It's not actually, that spoils our life if we just immediately hear about Radha and Krishna and the gopis dancing dancing in Vrindavan and everything like that, and just immediately awakens the lust in our hearts of our past experiences in this stupid world, with boys and girls dancing and so forth, and we compare it to Krishna's pastimes, which is completely opposite, you know. So that spoils our life, you know, that will make us go to hell. But rather, Prabhupada's given us a process which will gradually purify us from all of our own selfish desires and bring us to the point where we just want to serve Krishna. We just want to please Krishna. And I've experienced that, you know, just from, because I was engaged in doing book distribution and these kind of activities, prasadam distribution, and it's so purifying. And I experienced that after years of distributing books. I got to a point where we just didn't care anymore about our bodies or anything. If it was in the middle of winter and we needed to take a bath, we'd just jump in the freezing cold lake or river or anything. We just didn't care about ourselves. We weren't worried at all. And we just cared about distributing more books and trying to please the spiritual master. And that's all we cared about, trying to please the spiritual master, trying to please Prabhupada. We didn't care about anything else like that. Doesn't matter what anyone said or what anyone did. Were just focused on that, you know. And that process Prabhupada's given us all. You know, if we just stick to these principles of devotional service, every day hearing from Prabhupada's books, and every day chanting, every day taking prasadam, and doing whatever service the local authority is asking us to do, engaging in whatever menial services are there, then gradually by doing these things, we get purified of all desires for sense gratification and free from all mental speculation. And our hearts become purified and cleansed just by following this process. And I've seen it work on everyone. It works on Indians, works on Kiwis, works on Aussies, works on men, works on women, works on young people, old people. It's an amazing process. This is the path of liberation. And it's mainly hinging on, you know, Prabhupada is giving us complete knowledge. He's giving us complete knowledge. And with that complete knowledge, you know, that it's awakening our spiritual intelligence. I'm not this body. I am an eternal soul. I am a eternal servant of Krishna. And that is my real happiness. So when that intelligence, by the words of Prabhupada or the spiritual master, is reawakening our deep within us, our spiritual intelligence. And that's what it's saying in this verse in the 5th chapter. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme. So Prabhupada's helping us to fix. So we're back to 5th chapter, text 17. So he's helping us to fix all parts of ourself on the Supreme, giving us that knowledge, awakening our spiritual intelligence, purifying the mind. Isn't it said that's what chanting Hare Krishna does? Purifies the mind. So our mind is thinking about making the senses happy, making me happy. So when we chant Hare Krishna, it's cleansing the mind. Chaito dapana marjana, cleansing the dust on the mirror of the mind. So just by chanting, our mind's becoming cleaned. When we hear the spiritual master, our intelligence is being cleaned. And then we develop faith. We develop faith. Not blind faith, which is not recommended, but faith based on knowledge. Prabhupada's given us. I've got right next to me, I've got a bookshelf with more than 80 books on it. You know, so much knowledge. And when we get that, some of that knowledge goes in our thick head, even if only 5% sticks in it, it's still knowledge that's going to help us to build up our faith. And when the knowledge becomes full, then the faith becomes full. Then you become like a mountain. One immovable. One neighbor, actually, he told me about, he met one Maori chief called Kahunga. I think they call it, the Maori name for a chief is it's like a spiritual elder, not just a spiritual elder called a Kahunga. And he was saying that the priest just he spoke these like prayers and that for half an hour, and saying that it's very powerful. The vibration, he didn't understand what it meant, but the vibration was so powerful. And after half an hour of these prayers, and then he prayed in my neighbor's house, and then gave blessings or whatever, Maori blessings, and then my neighbor looked in his eyes. He looked in his eyes. And he said that when the neighbor said when he looked in this Maori chief's eyes, he could just see so much, like, just faith and power